the continuum, where past and future.
What's up, guys? Welcome in to the AandEPodcast. I'm Andy Stowe. He is Eddie from Ackworth. And as you can tell, that is not Paul Maharry. We went out and got his best friend in the whole world, Ben.
I do not miss Paul Maharry at all. I do not miss seeing him at all.
Y'all are best friends. He misses you a lot. So.
Oh, Jesus Christ. He's
Well, we thought we'd open the show with you laying into Paul Maharry, so here you go. Go right at it, Ben.
Don't worry. If we don't hit each other back much anymore. He was a pain in my ass.
We get it. We deal with it.
Sorry for language, but
well, no, before we get started, Ben, go ahead and introduce yourself and how people can find you and read what you write and watch all your silly predictions. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so I'm also on UGASports with, sadly, Paul Maharry, who's still a 20-year intern at this rate. He's actually, it's funny. People joke about that, but he's actually still listed as an intern. So I'm still on there with him, Roddy, and the guys. I'm always right now. I'm doing football, basketball, and baseball. I'm covering this baseball team that's driving me crazy week to week. So I'm on there all the time. I'll be on the channel for the overreaction shows in the fall and some stuff upcoming. So I'll be on there a lot. Maybe I will eventually get X or Twitter, whatever you call it. I'm going to call it Twitter until
it's Twitter.
X
I'll never call it X. It's Twitter to me. Yeah. So, Ben, one thing I wondered about you. Are you in Georgia or are you up in Baltimore right now?
Oh, I'm living in Maryland right now.
Okay. So
sadly, I might move back down to Georgia. So
okay.
It depends on jobs. I'm looking for a new job right now. So
well, that was my question, not to get too much into your business. Why are you in Maryland? Is it job related?
No, it's family related because I have family up here, family down there. So
were you born and raised up in that area?
Yeah, I was born and raised up in this area.
Okay.
So
how did you end up covering the Dogs like you are, being up in Maryland?
Crazy thing. I was like one of you. And so I would get inside information on the team because I knew people, and I have a lot of people that are friends down there. And I was a member of the vault and the vent. And Roddy, one time, it was when I believe I guess I can say his name on here, when Jake Roos left.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Roddy was looking for new people, and he looked at Blaine, he looked at Jed, and Jed was just covering the team like through the school. And he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, I like your work. Do you want to be a part of the team?" Because I knew a couple people that talked to him frequently. He reached out and direct messaged me. And then he said, "Hey, we'll bring you in, be a part of the shows." And that's why, like the recruiting show, I pitched that idea to Roddy. I'm like, these people pay for recruiting. Give a recruiting show on the channel. So you have nothing to lose. And I'm like, show Jed and show Blaine and show these personalities. I know Blaine's doing stuff with his family now, still a good friend of mine, but we all came in at the same time. And I think since then, that year, they won 2 national championships. So I think it's been pretty good. First 2 years covering the team was 2 titles. This year, kind of BS at the end. I still am not over. You lose 1 game at one point in the year, and that dictates you being in the playoff. I think it's stupid. But
why being born and raised up in Maryland, Ben? I mean, why would you not just be a Maryland fan? How did you become a Georgia guy?
Family going to different schools. And I think one of the main reasons is I'm a football guy at heart. So I'm like, when I started watching, I wasn't into college basketball much. So when I was like, okay, I'm raised in the Georgia thing, I loved SEC football. So when I was young age, Georgia football, I was like, Georgia football is the thing for me. And I love like Matthew Stafford, still one of my favorite players to this day of all time. No Sean Marino and Thomas Davis. I love those. I love players like Thomas Davis. Like in terms of Georgia, like I think Thomas Davis is the ultimate Georgia Bulldog. Like period. Like he's
one of my all-time favorite players. I love.
Because I think when you look.
By the way, if Thomas Davis was playing today, he'd be in jail for the hits he made. Right? I mean,
that's the way. And his son might play at Georgia. You might see Thomas Davis Jr.
Yeah, I know he's coming on strong. That's right.
They have to offer him as someone who follows that. I don't know how they haven't offered him yet. I think it'll probably come soon. There's no way they don't offer him.
Even if he doesn't turn out great, it doesn't matter. You've got to offer Thomas Davis Jr.
Don't think that'll be a Justice Haynes situation. Don't think so.
Yeah. Well, let's not go there.
It's not.
And they're still talking about Justice Haynes potentially getting in the portal, but now they were saying no, he's definitely not. But
I heard today, and you probably heard the same thing that Justice Haynes is staying. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's not going. He shouldn't. He's probably the best back on their team. He looks explosive. But yeah, Ben, so I'm glad you mentioned about your recruiting background, and you did not get to, or I didn't see you on the post-game reaction show. So I was
Yeah.
wondering, what was your take from G-Day? What did you see? Was there anything that stood out to you, good or bad? And where do you assess this team right now?
I love that the defense won the day. And the reason I say that is I feel like this goes for most teams. Maybe Iowa's probably the exception, where the defense, whenever you hear, scrimmages and stuff, you would hear the offense won the scrimmage and the offense is doing good because you don't want to beat up on your own players. So maybe it's not as physical. The defense looking as good as it did. I'll say this, Daniel Harris, this might be my one bold take. If he's starting this year, I think whenever he's draft eligible, might be a first-round pick. Daniel Harris is a really good corner, and I think he's going to start.
Starting at game one? You think he starts
Yeah,
game
I think Daniel Harris starts game one. I do, because Julian Humphrey's been running with the twos. I'm a huge fan of Humphrey. I think Eddie was a fan last year. I think in this game when he came in, I think he could compete. I think Harris might be the number one corner this year.
Who starts opposite?
I think early it'll be Everett because of the experience.
Right.
Just because Kirby always puts in the guys there for experience.
But Robinson's coming in, right?
I think Robinson, if he ever starts a game, he's not losing his job.
Yeah,
he's not losing his job. And he's the best corner prospect or DB Kirby's ever landed. And that includes when he was at Bama.
Yeah, they say since Champ Bailey, he's the best player that we've had since Champ Bailey.
I agree with that. 100%.
Yeah. Well, so that's interesting though. If you think Harris is going to be starting out there, I don't know that a lot of people think that right now. So that's
and also the other player that surprised me from South Carolina, people weren't talking about him. McLeod, the D-line.
McLeod.
Yeah, McLeod. He looked good. Like I'm looking at him.
That's Eddie's boy. Yeah, Eddie loves him.
Yeah, because I look at the D-line. If the D-line lost Georgia that SEC championship game, they just looked soft. And I'm like, a Kirby Smart team, if I ever was doing interviews with people who don't follow Georgia, I'm like, Kirby Smart teams tackle and they're good in the trenches. That team was not tackling well, and the D-line, that was the weakest I've ever seen. When I saw Nazir Stackhouse get pancaked on one or two plays, I said, this is not – Kirby's going to be in the offseason cussing up a storm. That's going to be his number one priority. So when I see McLeod look good, I thought Michael Williams off the edge is going to be exceptional. That's always where he was supposed to be, rushing off the edge.
Yeah.
He looks comfortable there. I just think this team, Gabe Harris is one that even when he was in last year, I said he flashed. So the D-line and the secondary was good. And then briefly on the offense, I think Dominic Lovett this year is going to be more of what people thought he should have been last year. I do. I think he's going to be an alpha with Colby Young as more of that red zone receiver like Lawrence Cager, who went to the same high school as my brother actually. But I think Lovett, Young, I think they're your 1-2 options. And then I think the defense looked better than I thought it would. So overall, I thought G-Day was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought G-Day looked good. I think Dominic Lovett, I think it just took him about a year to get comfortable with Georgia's system versus coming out there. So,
I think Ben makes a really good point because that was my concern all year last year. We always compare the defense to the year prior. And of course, the first year we won the national championship was just that was a dominating defense. We were not getting at the quarterback or to the quarterback. And then, yes, they weren't getting – I mean, it's hard to judge sacks in a G-Day game, right? But when they weren't getting to the quarterback, they were raising their hands and tipping balls, which to me is more frustrating than a sack. I hate tip balls, and they were doing that over and over and over. So they're learning now, if I can't get to the quarterback, do some sort of disruption.
Right.
Let's disrupt this play. And I loved every aspect of that because you're right. It didn't really catch up to us till Alabama, and we got pushed around, and that was my concern all year. And it happened in the worst time of the year when the defensive line did not show up. So I love that point. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, they got pushed around in the SEC championship.
They did.
That was the first time in 3 or 4 years that they got pushed around by anybody. So, yeah. Well, another thing that's going on right now is the transfer portal. So we've seen basically the two main guys we've seen are Tyler Williams and Andrew Paul. How much are you concerned about those two guys? Do you think it's a big shot for Georgia losing them?
In the long term, no, I really don't, because Etienne's going to play game 2. And then also, I thought Roderick Robinson was going to be in Kendall Milton's role this year, where between the tackles, he's the big back. I mean, he's big and built like Kendall Milton. So I think Roderick Robinson's going to get carries game 1. He was regardless. Losing Etienne, the tricky thing, and I think we were going to talk about it, Dylan Bell, I would maybe game 1 use him a little bit in the backfield because he's explosive, and also being a receiver, he can catch balls out of the backfield. I think Etienne's more of that type of third down back, where Dylan Bell can be that third down back, get 7-8 touches at running back in that game. And I think that actually helps his value because when people compare Dylan Bell, it's Deebo Samuel. And if I'm looking at if I'm Dylan Bell or I'm his father or someone advising him, I'm saying, listen, if people are comparing you to him and they say we can use you as a running back, we can use you as a receiver, that helps your stock. Like that's the thing, like with Brock Bowers in the draft this year as a tight end. Mm-hmm. He's more than just a tight end. He could be a tight end, but he's more than a tight end. That's why I hate when people go, because he's a tight end, don't take him top 10. No, Dylan Bell, like Brock Bowers, is more than just a receiver. He can be a running back. He can be a gadget player. He can do all this. Use him like that week 1, and the running back concern I don't think will be as big because I'm not high on Clemson. I think Clemson, they're falling down fast with Dabo. I think their run is over pretty much. So I think Georgia has enough between their offensive line and their other backs to get it done game 1. After game 1, ETN's back, you're fine.
Okay, so that's my question. Yeah, you're not too concerned that basically Roderick Robinson, is he going to be a 20-carry guy that first game? Or do you think they will use Dylan Bell? So you think they'll kind of just go between the tackles, 20 carries with Robinson?
Yeah, I think Robinson will get definitely double-digit carries between the tackles because he's that big bruiser back. None of the other running backs are like that.
Could Branson conceivably play in that game, though, Branson Robinson?
I don't know where he's at in his recovery. I could see him back for sure by midseason. I think he'll be back
midseason. You don't think he's back that early then?
I don't think he'll be back that early, or he won't get that many touches. Like he won't be a starter game 1.
Yeah, no. I didn't mean starter. I just mean mop-up duty or something like that.
If they wanted to use him in mop-up duty, I think there's a chance of that. But by midseason, I think he should play. Yeah. So that's the thing that stinks is I thought Branson Robinson out of high school was going to be that next big thing. That injury sucks.
Yeah, he looked like Nick Chubb. He looked like a new Nick Chubb.
He did.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think Dylan Bell plays one snap at running back in Clemson.
Okay.
And the reason is because of a kid named Nate Frazier. Watch out. And you know what I think they did on G-Day game is they handed the ball off to Chauncey Bowens to see what they had in this kid. And he looked okay. He wasn't like, wow, off the page kind of thing. Now, Roderick was. Andrew Paul was. He looked really good.
He looked good.
I know he's gone. That's fine. But this Nate Frazier kid, I'm really excited about him, and I wouldn't discount him game 1.
But he's not coming in until the summer. So that's the thing.
I'm a huge fan, too.
So
I'm a huge fan of Frazier.
No, I'm with you. It's just, Kirby, he likes guys with experience. But
yeah, that's my thing, Andy. That's why I'm with you. Just freshman playing week 1 versus Clemson. That's my only pickup. I think Frazier's talented. I think Frazier's one of the 2-3 most talented backs. I agree with Eddie on that, but I just don't know if Kirby's going to play in week 1.
Brock Bowers played as a freshman.
He did. He was here early, too.
But he's also Brock Bowers.
Was he here early? Was he here?
Yeah, he was.
Okay. He was here early.
Well, that does make a difference. I'll grant you that.
But, what about that, Ben? Who you got as a punt returner?
Oh, that's a good one.
Anthony Evans looks good. If I'm Arian Smith, I'm a little concerned about Anthony Evans. Because Arian Smith's a burner, and if Anthony Evans comes on, if you're Arian going, I came back for a 5th year, and this guy's taking receptions, I'm screwed. You know what I mean? Like, Arian's got to be looking over his shoulder going, Anthony Evans is going to be in punt return, kick return. I think Bolden might be the second guy in that.
That's what I was going to say. What about Bolden?
So Evans might be a sleeper on this team. That's why, every year, everyone talks about, is Georgia going to get a 1,000-yard receiver? They always have 6 guys who aren't far off each other that they want to use and mix and match with health. So I look and say Anthony Evans is here, punt return.
Coach Hayes,
I think easy money.
White. Yeah, he says Kobe White.
Kobe White too. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could be a good one.
But based on experience, I think you're right. It's Anthony Evans' job to lose at this point, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think it's his job to lose. Didn't he return a kick in the bowl game?
He did.
That looked good. I recall that was him. I was like,
well, he jump started us in the SEC championship, right? He came in and did that 31. He almost busted it. He busts that. We win that damn game. But you remember he had that 31-yard return where we're like, whoa, where's this been all year?
Yeah, he's explosive. That was a late pull. I think he was committed to. I think it was Oklahoma. They flipped him late, and that was that was a big
it was Oklahoma. Yeah, he was at Oklahoma. But James makes a good point. He says if Ellis is the next Champ Bailey, why not start him? And that's true. If he is that good, I don't know how you keep him on the bench. That's maybe James is just experience.
I don't think it really matters. I keep saying this. Does it really matter who starts? Kirby rotates guys in, and that's what I love, right? He just rotates them in. And if Ellis is having a good camp, he's going to probably start Everett, like you said, and then rotate Ellis and Robinson in. Big deal, right?
If they're close in comparison, if he views them, he's like, I don't know. He'll play multiple of them and then see the flow of the game. All right, I'm riding the hot hand.
Yeah.
That's what I think he'll do.
Yeah, we got sticking with football. The NCAA just approved immediate eligibility for multi-time transfers.
Oh.
How do you feel about this? I mean,
Awful.
yeah. I mean, that's
awful. Like now, like if you're a coach, this is what's gonna. If this is my honest opinion, and I guess I'll just say it.
Go ahead.
Kirby Smart. I used to say if the NIL era didn't happen and Kirby won that championship in 21, 22, yeah, maybe Saban's still here too, but Kirby. I'm thinking Kirby might be here for 20 years. With the way this, I got to recruit my own roster now. Everybody, like, okay, you transferred into my program. Now you might transfer to another program trying to get money. If you're a coach, I'm like, why would I want to deal with this? That's why if you're an assistant, perfect example, the Boston College head coach went to the Packers to be a coordinator. It's like,
you saw Chip Kelly from UCLA to go to be the OC for Ohio State.
Yeah, he left. I'm gonna drop and be just a coordinator and only recruit maybe quarterbacks instead of having to deal with all the head coach responsibilities because this is crazy. Now you got to recruit your own roster.
Yep.
You got to recruit the portal with transfers. You got to recruit high school kids. You got to recruit high school kids who are in their sophomore and freshman years. You got to deal with NIL. It's a pain. Like this is the stuff that I'm like, it's destroying college athletics. Is when every year this guy, it's like, oh yeah, this guy's been at 4 colleges in 4 years. No wonder the development level's dropping. Also, it's going to hurt development. You know, when you're at Alabama and you get to be there for 3-4 years learning under Saban, your development's going to be better when you're in the pros. Or if you're at Georgia for 3-4 years, better. If you're at 3-4 different schools, you're never going to be properly developed. Like, and also the coaches are being driven crazy. And now we're going to get worse coaches. So I think it's awful.
It is. And I'm with you, Ben. And here's been my prediction all along. I thought initially, Kirby's here as a lifer. He's going to be here till Saban, right? Till he's 70-something. I'm going to say it right now. I think he's here 5 more years. Unless they corral this a little bit. And we're going to talk about that later, right? Where things could maybe get a little bit better. But this crap he's dealing with now, he never envisioned when he came on board at Georgia. And this is another several layers of the onion that they've got to deal with, and he didn't expect to deal with that, right? He was like, I never thought about this kind of thing when I came on board at Georgia as a head coach, right? I just want to win. And now he's having to do roster management during bowl preparation, right? I mean, how ridiculous is that?
Yeah.
It's absurd. So, and Andy, I did clarify one thing. I asked you that question, and you said, I don't know. Kids cannot transfer in December because I asked him this question. Could a kid conceivably transfer in December, get on another team, practice and play in their bowl game that same window right there? They can't do that. The next fall that they're eligible. Well, I didn't know. You know, I mean, that's a legit question. Is that crazy the way things are? That's not a crazy question to ask, right?
James says Kirby is not a quitter, even though it gets tough. He said, and 3 years from now, kids will be paid directly by schools, salary cap, and multi-year contracts. And James, so that was one of the things in that new agreement that the NCAA has approved universities to help athletes find NIL contracts, which they're doing that already. And it says the athletes are required to disclose any NIL deal of more than $600 to their school. But right now, they did not approve them to pay to play. Is this where we're at? So, James, you're thinking 3 years will be pay to play? Ben, is that what you're thinking? Eddie, is it where the schools can actually pay their players and they will be on a contract?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it will be 3 years or shorter. Like, I don't know the exact timeline, but I think around there. Yeah, I think so. Because that's also one of the only ways is if the NCAA has to, they're basically, everyone craps on the NCAA, rightfully so. They have to fix this. They can't just lay down and be
they're
like,
not
all right.
going to, Ben. They're not going
They're banking on the government to bail them out.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen. You look at our government it's bailing anybody out.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
What do you think? The NCAA, we're going to go to our government, get NIL legislation signed. They ain't get anything signed. So like, it's stupid, but I think that it'll actually help with Kirby if he knows, school's paying it. I don't have to put up with it as much. That might help Kirby stay for longer. And that's honestly got to be the hope of all colleges.
And I want to comment on what James said. I'm not calling Kirby a quitter by any means.
No, he's not.
I just think that's all the additional layers that he didn't think about. And it's just almost too much for these guys to deal with, right? I mean, I'm not saying Kirby can't handle it, but I mean, just the roster management alone has become ridiculous. And the kids coming in saying, I got to have $3 million to play here. It's just out of control. So
I don't think it's quitting. Also, like
I agree.
He has a wife and kids.
Yeah.
And he has to have that level of a schedule. I don't think people realize his son's going to be playing high school football in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And then he's going to be going off to college. Like, he wants to be a dad. He wants to be there with his wife. Like, and you got to be, it's not like in the NFL, all I have to worry about is coaching. And maybe I'll have some input on the draft where I'm not recruiting players, but I'm just scouting. I can literally sit at home, pop on some film, and scout the players and give my opinions, whether they take it or not. And I just coach during the season. Then I get an off season where I'm on vacation. You know, that's a good schedule. Like, that's why the NFL, it's a better schedule. So
well, I mean, I'll give you an example. So my wife performed Ben at a basketball game this year. She was an old dance dog, and they brought we're older, right? We're golden dogs. So they came back and danced. Kirby was on the front row, right? Was supposed to be watching the game, watching her. I swear, Ben, he was like this the entire time he was there. He was on his phone, and it was just because it's nonstop. Right. And it was probably at that time, it was like KJ Bolden. Oh my God. You know, it's just there's no downtime ever.
Right.
For these guys.
I saw him get to work. It was Monday
He didn't even
morning.
see my wife. He didn't even look up. My wife was performing right there, and he's looking at his phone. I was like, damn it, Kirby, come on.
Yeah, I saw him Monday morning. It was 6:50. And he wasn't running slow either. He was driving. I mean, he came flying around that curve. So I was like, "Dang, Kirby!" Like, I had to run across the road so he didn't hit me. But he
should let him hit you and suit his ass. Come on, Andy.
I can't do that. I can't hurt Georgia that way. But no, it is nonstop. And I don't think it would be quitting. I just think there's a point where you can only take so much. I mean, it's
that's
the stress level. The stress level these guys are going through is.
There's only so much we can take a Ben, right? We're going to get ready to cut him off, right?
I mean, I guess
the thing.
Well, did y'all see? And I know Eddie did. He sent it to me. But Ben, did you see the rumors of the 70-team Super League? And it would be divided into 7 conferences, and there would also be a 8th conference, and those 10 teams could be relegated each year. Did you see that?
I didn't see it, but that's actually interesting. Like, let
me stop you, Ben. Have you read, and I hate to put you on the spot here, have you read Brent Rollins' article about how to fix college football and what he proposed? It was very similar to what Andy's talking about.
No, actually, I haven't.
Okay, all right, sorry. Well, go ahead. That's all right. Just comment on this. We can talk about that later, but go ahead.
Yeah. So it's crazy, but they're looking at it's just a hypothetical right now, you know, but they were saying 70-team Super League, and then there would be 10 teams. And if one of the teams that was, say, 70th, they would get relegated, and one of those guys would move up. What do you think about that?
It's like soccer. You know, I think Dane pitched that years ago. Like, Dane said, like, Vanderbilt would get relegated so many times.
Yes.
I mean, Vandy, you know, they're screwed. But I remember it was like partner with another conference and bottom 2 teams. So it's kind of like the crap teams, actually. It's kind of enjoyable to watch them, because then it's like they might get booted to a different conference. Kind of interesting. Yeah. I just think it's hard because, like, the commissioners and stuff like that, they want like a constant, like, okay, we own this team every year. Right. It's a part of our league. I think that would be the hiccup. Like, I don't know if they could ever do it, but as a fan, I would want it. I'll be honest. Especially if, like, there was some super league that came in and goes, okay, all you guys are in the same region. You have to play each other. Like, if you're in the Big Ten,
that's how it was lined up. That's how.
Yeah, because I'm like, why is Rutgers playing UCLA or Oregon?
Right.
And especially if it's like one of those lower sports like volleyball. Rutgers
versus Stanford coming to the ACC?
That's a rivalry. What? It's so stupid.
Well, all this was based on basically the football conference, or football in general, breaking off from the NCAA, which I think is going to happen. They're going to break away from them.
Yeah, they should.
They should. Exactly. And it becomes a 10 team.
7-10 team leagues.
And we were in the South, so we pick up teams like Georgia Tech, right? And we do lose some rivalries. There's no doubt about it, but I'm okay with that. But the biggest thing to me was the revenue sharing. They get the revenue sharing for each team from the revenues on TV, and it's tiered. They pay the freshmen, what, Andy? I don't remember the percentages, but I'll just say freshmen 10%, sophomore 15, 20, and 25 for upperclassmen, something like that, right? So it's a tiered, and the schools are now paying them.
Yeah, they're paying the players.
Right. And that's what's going to happen, right?
Oh, it's coming.
That's coming. Yeah. So, and I love the relegation part. I'm a huge EPL fan. I watch soccer every weekend. The relegation thing makes the lower teams matter. You're fighting your ass off to stay in a upper tier league, which I don't know what they're calling this kind of thing, but you don't want to go down to that lower league, which doesn't mean anything. One more thing I'll say on this. it was a 16 team playoff, Andy, isn't that right?
Yeah, I think it was 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
That could expand to 24 at some point, but it's expanded playoffs again. I have zero problem with that. So I loved it. I thought it was a great proposal.
Yeah, it looks interesting, and they are going to where the schools are paying. I know that's going to be a thing soon, and I think that's what will kind of help Kirby and those guys maybe hang around, because then they'll have a set contract for the players,
right?
And they'll know if I sign 5-star quarterback Ben Bachmann, he's got to be here 3 years, and then so there will be some. So,
and there were some restrictions on the transfer portal, right?
Yeah.
It was transfer one time, but the second time you had to sit out a year, which that's great.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Well, Ben, moving on to the baseball team. I know you're big into Georgia baseball. I know you follow it big for UGASports. Yeah. So right now the team is 27-9. They're going to open, and they're 7-8 in the SEC. They have a 3-game series coming up this weekend with Ole Miss. What is your take currently on this Dogs team? Are they good enough to, to make some noise in the postseason?
Well, first off, I'll say I think they definitely win this series this upcoming weekend against Ole Miss. Okay. They're a better team than Ole Miss, and they're at home. I'll say Georgia at home at Foley's a different animal. They're a damn good team at home. On the road, well, every team on the road in the SEC struggles, but Georgia's not one of those teams that's built for the road. I think they'll make a regional in the postseason. I think a lot of it's about if they found a way to get hot these last 5 weeks and host a regional. I think they can make it to a super. I think if they're not hosting, it's going to be a struggle for them a bit. I remember the last time they were in a regional, 2022, they had actually a pitcher. Speaking of them, Jonathan Cannon, who debuted for the White Sox. He I remember was the last pitcher in the regional they did, and he struggled. And it was on the road. I think it was at North Carolina. And I just remember I'm like, Georgia always struggles on the road, but at home they're different. So that's why I say for them, being a host might be very important. Like if they're a host, the sky's the limit. If not, I think it'll be a shorter postseason. But I think for Georgia, just making a regional is a success in year one, because Strickland didn't make one last year. And that team, I mean, they got swept by Missouri at the end of last year, and that's an embarrassment. You should never be swept by Missouri. And
you just said that. Go ahead, Eddie.
Ben, is Charlie Condon the best player from Georgia you've ever seen play baseball?
Yes. Without a doubt, he's the best player. I think about it. He redshirted his first year in baseball. And it's redshirting in football, redshirting basketball, that's different. Baseball, you need to see those pitchers every day. When you redshirt and go, this spring, I'm not playing baseball, getting all those at-bats you're not getting to get better, and then to come in and break the freshman SEC home run record. And then this year, to do what he's doing, he's on pace. I'll say this. If they make it to a super regional or Omaha, he'll probably break the SEC home run record, because if they make it that far,
we talked about that. Sunday night.
If Georgia makes it there, it's because he probably breaks the 40 home runs.
Right.
I mean, the thing with me with Condon is the games played. I don't know how many games he's going to play, because if Georgia miraculously, because Ole Miss did it, and they're a worse team than this Georgia team, won the title 2 years ago. They made it to the World Series final. If he played that many games, it's probably because he's at the D1 record. Yeah. So if they make it that far, I think so. And Condon, the only thing about him going number one is I hate the baseball draft. Even though I'm an Orioles fan and we've killed the draft, I hate how it operates with the money. Like, oh, we have a slot value. Yeah, and then some people are like, yeah, I'm a top 10 pick, but he goes in the third round because teams are taking players who are worth less money. Yeah. That thing might screw him out of number one if his agent's like, hey, we don't want you taken under slot. So that's why I don't know how to predict the number one pick, even though I think he's the best player in the draft. He's the number one player, but I don't know if he goes number one.
Yeah, they if he carries them, they can make some noise. That I think it's going to be kind of that. He's got to be the guy that's carrying them. I just think he has to go nuts, and maybe he does break that record. But
and Goldstein's got to come back. He's hurt. I mean, I think he's probably going to be back soon, but he needs to come back because they're pitching. He was good last year for them. Like he was. I remember talking to Pennhurst, a buddy of mine who's been following the team for years, and I was like, I didn't even know who Charlie Goldstein was, and I'd been watching the team. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. Why is he starting? He told me, he's like, yeah, he was on scholarship, got pulled off, and then worked his way back up. And when you look at him, I'm like, last year he faces Florida, 5 innings of 1-run ball. He faces, I think it's Tennessee or somebody. He's like shutting them out. And I'm like, even though he's a senior and he's probably not like an MLB pro arm, he's just consistent in an SEC play. And him being hurt, I think, cost them versus Mississippi State. Because if they had him pitching, I think they probably take an extra game in that series and have a road series win. So they need him. Their best high school recruit in the 22 class, best freshman last year, got Tommy John, Matthew Hoskins. Not having him's hurting this team because he's the most talented arm, and he's not pitching all year this year because of Tommy John. He'll be back in the fall. But I'm just sitting around saying, man, this team was this close also. Last thing, Chase Burns is the number 1 pitching prospect in this year's draft. He's at Wake Forest. Georgia came in second for him out of the portal. West was this close to getting him. And I said this. I said, if they would have gotten a Chase Burns Friday starters, a first-round arm that could just – he's pitching, you win the game. If they had that one star
that
ace,
one guy,
he had Paul Skeens, like he had Paul Skeens at LSU. If he had that Paul Skeens type arm, I would trust this team because, they have that one game a weekend. That guy's pitching. You don't got to worry. The other game, you can throw all the other arms, the other games, throw them all.
One more question on this. I'm not disparaging any former coaches. Are we where we are without Wes Johnson at this point?
No, Wes Johnson was a massive upgrade. Scott Strickland,
I agree with you. Yeah.
This is going to be Georgia's highest ranked recruiting class in a while. Like they're signing like 5 or 6 like top 100 players who I've heard are pretty much all going to make it to campus at this point. I'd be shocked if they don't. The only player I remember that was like, wow, that guy made it to campus was Cole Wilcox. But that guy might be I've never seen a Georgia player love the University of Georgia like him. And I know he's with the Rays right now. But when I looked at Strickland, he did not care about recruiting, and that cost him. And also with hitting. They never had this top like 5 SEC offense. This is the best Georgia offense I've seen.
Yeah.
Like
so Wes Johnson is a huge upgrade, like you said. He's a huge upgrade.
Yeah, he's a huge upgrade. At first, I didn't like the hire. Like, not that I didn't like the hire. I was like on the hire because I was like, he's never recruited. Like he was a pitching coach at Mississippi State. Then Arkansas was like, I don't know the recruiting. And then when I talked to people there, and in the hire of Will Coggins, the hitting coach, alpha recruiter, what he's done with the bats is ridiculous. Corey Collins turning around, who I thought was dead in the water, and what he's done this year is insane. I'm like, they're recruiting really good players, and they're getting the best. I love the assistant hires. They hired a former scout who's a JUCO coach legend, Coach Simpson. He's the guy who's the third base coach. Yeah. He's really connected and can really recruit. So I'm like, he's taking this serious. And the facilities that are coming are going to help because their facilities are terrible. Yeah, that new facility they have coming is going to help big time because now they're going to have a pitching lab for once. They don't have a pitching lab. They don't have all these things. They're going to have them next offseason. So
that's great. Good.
The program's going to change for sure.
Good. So with you saying that, though, and as good as Wes Johnson is, should we be worried that some bigger team is going to come out and try to scoop him up?
Well, that's a good point. That's a good question.
I don't think so because I think the SEC baseball, because the nature of the sport, like 9 SEC baseball teams make regionals. Like you don't even have to win the conference. It's just that loaded. If you're at Georgia and with the resources they're putting around him, I think they paid him like $1 million, like close to $1 million. I think
800. Yeah, something.
If he wins at Georgia, the boosters are going to pay him enough money to stay. Yeah. They'll give him the resources to stay. Like Mike White, it's like with Mike White. Like I'm like Mike White might not be the guy for Georgia long term. I don't know that answer, but I don't think he's going to leave because Georgia's paying him so well. Georgia's going to be like, if Georgia thinks he's the guy, they'll pay him the money to stay. So. I don't think he leaves to go anywhere else.
Good.
Ben, I know you are a big Baltimore Orioles fan, and obviously we're big Atlanta Braves fans. But the Braves are off to a 12-5 start. They have the best record. Yeah, they have the best record in baseball. They are basically 10% through the year. They're doing this without some of the big guys that we thought was going to be the guy. Spencer Strider got hurt. Max Fried is whatever. Ronald Acuna finally hit his first home run yesterday. But are we concerned if you be an outsider? I'm curious what you think. If you're looking at the Braves and you're saying, okay, Strider's not there, Fried isn't who he was, and Acuna's, which I think Acuna will take off. But do you look at this team and think they're still good enough to go out and win maybe the World Series, at least get to the World Series and maybe win it?
I have a theory. We both, being Orioles fan, Braves fan, we both dealt with this last year. Being the 1 and 2 seed, I feel like in the MLB with the playoff structure is terrible.
Is a negative.
You're sitting. Okay, think about this. The biggest amount of time you have off is, I think, 4 or 5 days for the All-Star break. You get 6 days off. It's an everyday sport. It's not like basketball. Take the night off. Football, you get a bye. You guys are beat down. You love that. You're like, it's a bye week.
Good. Yeah.
So I'm like, 6 days off for baseball players? No. Also, it's like, okay, we want to set our rotation. All right, Spencer Strider, we're going to pitch you now, or we're going to limit your innings. So you're not going to pitch for 9 days. And these guys, okay, like Phillies, perfect example last year. You guys are the Phillies. I think this year, if you guys are in the Phillies role where you're a wild card team, with that offense, and you guys are hungry teams. They're the team that's on the bye. You guys have the momentum. You're the underdogs who won a series in the wild card. You carry that momentum in. I think the Braves have a better chance of winning World Series. I don't want to be a 1 or 2 seed. A part of me doesn't want to do it because I'm like, I don't want the 6-day layoff. And the Braves offense, to me, is the best offense in the league, and that's going to carry them. They'll be in the playoffs even without Strider. But I think the one thing the Braves have, and I've seen this, Ronaldo Lopez has, I think, he's only given up like 1 run in 3 starts.
Yeah.
You need no one would have ever guessed that.
No.
People were like, who is this guy? And he's got 1 run allowed in 3 starts. You need those things to happen. You need those players who are like hitting 7, 8, 9 in the lineup who randomly have a year where you're like, well, this guy, I thought he's just the random guy hitting 220 and he's hitting like 270 and hitting a bunch of home runs. It has like a mirage season. Or you have a pitcher who's like, oh, this pitcher's winning a bunch of games for us this year who we weren't expecting. You need those to happen in baseball. And I think if Lopez can keep it up, not to this degree.
Yeah, there's no way.
He's that good in the ERA. But if he could be like a solid starting pitcher for you guys, like you need those things to happen to win a World Series because that's the nature of baseball. And I think the Braves can still win one. I think there's like 6 or 7 teams that can win the World Series this year. So the Braves are still one of them because that offense is just too damn good.
Yeah, and I think the offense can carry. I mean, it just sucks that we 3 weeks ago, we all thought the Braves had 2 of the top probably 5 Cy Young voters or Cy Young guys. We thought that Fried and Spencer Strider would be 2 in the top 5. So you're losing 2 guys basically. I mean, you're losing 2 aces when you.
Well, Fried's not lost. He just hadn't found himself.
He ain't the guy though. Like right now, he's
not so far.
Are you paying him? Are you going to pay him?
No,
I don't
he's
think
walking. He's gone.
He's walking. Yeah,
he's gone.
His health issues. I said it's like with my Orioles with John Means. He's never healthy. I'm like Fried to me. It always seems like every year he gets an injury. I'm like I can't count on that. Yep. That's why I'm worried about pitching every year. Pitchers just get hurt a lot.
Right.
I don't even think it's like this year. Maybe it's more than other years. I don't think it's the pitch clock. But pitchers just get hurt a lot. They just always do. So you can never count on them being healthy. Just can't.
No, but it just that's the biggest thing with the Braves right now. But now I agree with James. He said they're too good to be a wild card team. I agree. I do think they're too good to be wild card. I think they're going to win.
Well, we say all that. I mean, the Phillies and the Mets. I know it's early. They're right on our heels.
They are.
We thought this division would be over when the season started, and it's not. I mean, I think the Mets are better. The Phillies always seem to be there. So I'm not going to just say Braves win the division. I'm not going to say that right now. I predicted that, Andy, by the way. I predicted the Phillies to win the division and us finish second, which to your point, Ben, might be a good thing, right?
I think it is. Because the Phillies, if the Phillies didn't have the momentum from that, I forget who they played. It might have been the Brewers. I don't remember who they played in the wild card beforehand. But when you win that series and your bats are hot and consistent versus like, I'm going to have 4 days where I don't see MLB pitching. That's why a lot of times they say, rehab start. We want you to see some at bats in the minors. So you're not affecting the major league team right now. Or pitchers, when they come back, they don't just throw against the major leagues. They go AAA, AA, have rehab starts. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. So that's why 6 days off, it's like, that's not good. Especially if you're one of the starters who was like one of the last 4 starters pitching. 10, 11 days off between pitching is just not good. Yeah. And then you're in a postseason game with high stakes. It's not good. They need to change that.
You know what?
It's the wild card's a 1-game
It's not changing anytime soon, so you're going to have to deal with it, right?
I know, but if I would fix it, I would say day off after regular season, wild card game, then you go into one game wild card. Because if it's a 1-game wild card, it's like I want to tune into all these games.
Right.
Like that's what it would be. And then you go into the other games. 2 days off, that's fine. And also I like it best of 7 series, everything. I don't like how it's 3-game series, 5-game series. That's
too much of a crapshoot.
Yeah, I like a best of 7. That tells you who the best team is. I think the best of 7. Yeah. And James, I agree too. I'm worried that because he's pitching so well that they're going to keep riding him and he may gas out. And that's it's just weird. Like we saw Darius Vines look pretty decent, and it's just odd to me that they still have not called up. They've not called up Bryce Elder as good as he's looked in AAA. And then we also saw AJ Smith-Shawver have a good start. So I really just wonder if they're trying to see what they have. Like I don't. Right. I mean, as of now, because I'm still shocked it was not Bryce Elder for Darius Vines. But Vines looked good, and Vines is actually starting on Sunday, so he is getting the second start. So I don't know. I am worried, James. That's my biggest concern is you lose Strider, and then Fried isn't the guy we thought he was going to be. So now you're starting your guy that we kind of debated on who the 5th starter was. Now you're talking about the guy that is kind of the ace right now. So that's the thing that scares me. And Snit, when not only like he praised when I got Bill Shanks to ask Snit who his pitcher in the minor leagues was.
Yeah, he said
straight
Dodd.
up said Dodd. It was no hesitation, and he hasn't came up. So yeah,
You know what I thought?
I know Hurston Waldrop. He's going to be a player for you guys one day. Maybe not this year.
Not this year.
Next year, he's going to be a player for you guys.
Yeah,
I watched him in college. He's good.
Anyway, I thought about this today, Andy, and I wanted to bounce this off of you. So I think part of the reason that Snit is doing this and Bryce Elder's staying down because he kind of knows what he has in him. AJ Smith-Shawver, I think they want to keep him down in AAA for as long as they can. What about the fact that maybe they're showing Vines for trade bait? And he has he pitches well till July, and then we can actually make a decent or a really good move for a starter, and we've got something to show with Vines rather than just AAA stuff, right? I thought about that today. Maybe that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't know because, I mean, Darius Vines, he actually was throwing harder the other night than I thought he was going to throw. He was throwing 92, but I don't know how much. Maybe he's got some trade value. I don't know, but maybe that is what
he doesn't yet. But I mean, if he continues,
if he does good,
you know, he gets 6 wins between now and July. Maybe he is trade value. You know, I don't know. I just thought about that today.
It's possible, and maybe they are trying. They say, okay, we know what we have in Bryce Elder. We can keep him down here, and maybe keep him on a lower pitch count, or keep him fresh, and then bring him up. Maybe that is what they're doing. That's It is weird though that he praised Dodd. We haven't seen him. And Elder's pitched so good.
And Elder went to the damn All-Star game, and he hasn't pitched a second yet. You know,
I think Sunday's going to tell a lot. Yeah, I really think Sunday will be. I think if Vines doesn't pitch good, then I think it has to be Elder. It just.
That's the next guy. Not, you don't think it's Dodd?
I don't know. As good as Elder's pitching, he's pitched really well in AAA. So I just think he would have to be there. But if not, then we know there's something that we're missing. But man, I did want to hear about your Orioles. How do you right now? They're a half a game from.
Well, let's keep it short because we don't want all the listeners to log off. So
I'm confident in them right now. Jackson Holliday looks terrible, but he's just turned 20 years old. He can't even drink for another year.
What did you expect him to come up and ball out? I mean, come on.
No, he looks like a little kid. So you have to look and be like, he's going to take forever, but he's going to take a little bit of time. All of our prospects that come up struggle, but I think this year. I think they could be the 1 seed again. The Rangers scare me. I've said it. The teams that scare me in the big leagues, Rangers, Braves, Dodgers, and Phillies. I'm not worried about the Astros anymore. Yankees maybe a little bit. I think the Orioles this year, they got 2 great starters in Grayson Rodriguez and Corbin Burns. Burns, that was a big get. I'm shocked. Yeah. Andy, I'm shocked you didn't try to get Burns because looking at it, I'm like, the
they tried. They did try. Like I know that Alex Anthopoulos went after him, but they asked for too much. Because
you want Dylan Cease? I'm like, Burns went for less than what Cease got. I'm like, that makes no sense to me. I'm like, Burns is way better than Dylan Cease. I'm kind of shocked the Braves didn't do it because Shawver and Walter probably would have got that deal done.
They wanted Shawver and Walter. That's what they asked for.
And they're not doing. AA's not doing that.
He's not. He loves AJ Smith-Shawver.
That's right. Okay, so I think he loves Waldrop too, right?
He does, but like he loves both of those guys. When I know me and James had a going back and forth with who is the 5th starter. When Bill talked about when he had Alex Anthopoulos on his show, he gushed over AJ Smith-Shawver, and Bill said AJ Smith-Shawver was going to be the guy.
That's Bill Shanks.
Yeah,
right.
They like he just said, those are our prize jewels. They are. That's why when I was thinking he was going to be the 5th starter, it was because of what Alex Anthopoulos was saying. Right. They love that guy. They're not trading unless something, anything can happen. But right now, they're not doing it. So.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I was looking at every team's trade bait at the deadline, and you guys had Murphy, the pitcher they said was probably the top pitcher you guys would trade for somebody.
Yeah.
Because I was looking through that because my Orioles right now, 8-0 when Burns and Grayson start, 4-6 when they don't.
Really?
Like those 2 are star pitchers who are top 3 in the Cy Young for the AL because Kyle Bradish was a top 5 pitcher in baseball last year out of nowhere. Because I remember, Andy, I didn't even know that news happened, that he was hurt. And then I got I think you messaged me, and I was like, oh, crap. Like my whole day was dead once I saw that he was hurt. But he might come back in a few weeks. And if so, I'm not worried as much about pitching, and I'm not worried much about the Orioles. It's just about they're a young team. Young teams in the MLB playoffs, it's a crapshoot. You just got to hope to get hot at the right time. I'm not worried about making the playoffs. I'm just worried about once you get there, it's a different animal.
Yeah,
well, I'm just jealous that you can message Ben. I can't even message Ben. It's sad. It makes me sad.
You have his phone number now, so you got it.
No,
so
I don't. Oh yeah, I do. You're right. You're right. That's right. Yeah,
like,
I'll
you're
save
texting
it. And I'm going to message you at 2 a.m. about your stupid Orioles. How about that?
There you go. That sounds good. All right. Well, since we're talking about the stupid Orioles, why don't we talk about the NFL draft coming up, and we can talk about the stupid Ravens. So, Ben, first question to you: who do the Ravens take at 30? Or better
if Mims is there, I know. Sorry to cut you off, but if Mims is there, that's a slam dunk. I don't think he'll be there. I think like the Rams will take him.
No, I think Mims may go in the top 10.
I don't think that's a crazy take, but I don't see it because of the amount of starts. But I think that's going to ward teams away in the injuries. But,
okay, wait. Top 15. I'm sorry. 10's a little generous.
Oh, yeah. I could definitely see top 15. That's who I would want. I want to tackle as a Ravens fan. But you know what would be interesting? Speaking, because it's also UGA, Monken reuniting with McConkey. If an offensive tackle isn't there, McConkey back with Todd Monken would be fun. Okay, you remember, Todd Monken loved Ladd McConkey. That was like his first offer.
That's his guy.
So I'm like, that would be fun to watch. Now, Lamar and Ladd McConkey would be a weird dynamic, but Monken would love to use him. So I think if we don't take a tackle, I'd love to take Ladd because he fits the system.
Yeah.
Walter Football had the Maris Mims going 22nd to the Philadelphia Eagles. And for the 30th pick in the draft with the Baltimore Ravens, they have Tyler Guyton going. So there's your offensive tackle. So
the Eagles are taking Bullard at some point in the draft. I'm like, that's a slam dunk.
Yeah, of course they are.
I'm like, the Eagles are taking like 2 Georgia players. It's like Van Pran. Kelsey's going. Van Pran, there he's going.
Yep.
He's replacing Jason Kelsey.
Yep. But yeah, so the Falcons at 8th pick, Walter Football, of course, you know who he has. Everybody is predicting, or almost everybody is predicting that Georgia's going to take Dallas Turner. Eddie, is that where you want to go? Do you want to trade down? What do you want to do at the 8th pick of the draft? 7 days from today, what does GM Eddie from Ackworth do?
It's such a hard question because who's there, Andy? I mean, I hate to do that to you, right?
No, it's a good question.
I mean, if all right, I'll put it this way: if Joe Alt, Dallas Turner, and Jared Verse are all 3 there, I'm taking Joe Alt. 100%. I'm running to the podium to take Joe Alt because you just put $100 million in your quarterback. Protect his ass, and your tackles are getting old. I love Joe Alt. I'd take him in a second, okay? But my dream scenario is to trade back. That's the dream scenario.
Well, Walter Football has Joe Alt.
If those 3 guys are there, somebody was in love with J.J. McCarthy, trade back, go to maybe 13, pick up another pick, and let it run with that. That's the dream scenario. But, Andy, we talked about this pre-show. The Falcons have never done that. Why are they going to do it now? They're not going to. They're going to take the Toledo cornerback. We know it.
Brent Rollins loves him. And
that's what's going to happen.
So he does. And James said trade down. I feel like a defensive player there is a reach, and I don't want a receiver. Do not be surprised if they take a minute.
A defensive player there is a reach. I don't want a receiver either. I don't understand what he's saying.
I'm guessing, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm thinking he's saying if they take Turner, it is a reach at 8. I'm just assuming that he means get him at 12, get him at 15. Trade back.
His ass needs to come on and explain that because I don't understand that. A defensive player there is a reach. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Is that what you mean, James? Is it you just don't feel good with taking those guys at the 8th
I'll say this about the Falcons, Andy. Pass rush last year was terrible, so taking a pass rush makes sense. But I agree with Eddie. Joe Alt, to me, this is how I think about it. Weird way to phrase it. But quarterback is your top 3 needs. Now, hear me out. Number 1, get your quarterback. Number 2, protect your quarterback. Number 3, get after the other team's quarterback.
Yep.
That's how you operate the draft. To me, I call them the premium positions of quarterback, tackle, edge, D-line, whatever you want to categorize that with together. Those are the premium positions. Receivers kind of 4th. Receivers a distant 4th to me because of the value now in the league.
Exactly.
But I would not take a receiver at 8. If I'm Atlanta, I would probably, like Eddie says, I don't think there's that many teams needing an edge rusher. So if Joe Alt's off the board, I would trade down a few picks. If I have Verse and Turner like this, trade down. If one of them's taken, take the other one.
That's what I think James was meaning.
And then this is what I would do. I would trade, if you really want a receiver, trade your 2nd-round pick to the very end of the 1st round to get a receiver so you get that 5th-year option for a financial reason. Let's say you really want A.D. Mitchell or Ladd McConkey and receivers are expensive. You get that 5th-year option and you get a better receiver you want. use one of the picks you got from trading down to get that receiver in the late part of the first round.
Yeah.
And you get more years from him. That's what I think the smart move Atlanta should do.
I think that's a smart move too.
My heart says Ladd, but I would love A.D. Mitchell. I think A.D. Mitchell may be a little better than Ladd. He's a really
he's a good bit. He's taller.
Who do you think will complement London better?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
I think it's whoever complements him.
Well, who do you think, Eddie? Who's better to go with Drake London? If you have London on, is it better to have A.D. Mitchell or is it better?
I think A.D. Mitchell. I think A.D. Mitchell does. He's really. I don't know. I mean, it depends on where's that second pick. Are you talking about the second pick at 43? Is that what it is?
Yeah, or you're trading to the very end of the first round.
Yeah,
like, let's say
trade, it
32.
changes, right? I understand that, but
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'd be happy with either one. I really would.
Well, Garrett said if Turner's there, he doesn't think the Falcons are dumb enough to pass on him.
Yes, they are.
Garrett, the Falcons pass on last year.
I did hear something that they love the UCLA edge rusher. What's his name? Latu. Apparently, the Falcons like him.
I heard that too. But who did the Braves? Who did the Falcons pass on last year?
What's the kid from Texas now they're talking about? I heard today, Andy. What's his name?
Yeah, they are saying they're talking about the defensive tackle from Texas.
I wouldn't take him at 8. I would not take him at 8.
Well, that's come up today.
They got him. So it's his Brian Murphy, and they got him going 19th to the Los Angeles Rams currently. So
yeah, you could trade back like 5 picks. And
right.
I would, if you really were that high on him, I would trade back. He's not going top 10.
The only thing I'll say about all this is the encouraging thing is that D. Orlando Ledbetter, I'm sure y'all know who he is, AJC reporter, been covering the Falcons for years. He said if Joe Alt is there, they will run to the podium and take him. And D. Orlando has his finger on what's going on.
He does.
That made me feel really good to hear him say that. Now, I don't think he'll be there. But just to hear them say that they're considering that as an offensive tackle because they have ignored the offensive line and what they've gotten on the offensive line have been not good. Right. I would love that.
What about that, Ben? Ladd takes OBJ's spot as the third wide receiver with the
number
Ravens.
2. It'd be Zay Flowers and then him. I do not like Rashad Bateman. I'm just not a fan. I'm kind of happy Georgia not getting him because his injuries, I cannot stand that. It's always it's like bruised knee and you're out 4 weeks. Like, come on, man. Like, I hate that crap.
And James, that's what he said. He's saying that he's had the Falcons pick at 8 as someone you can get at 15. And that's what I think. Yeah. That's always the biggest issue with the Falcons. They take a guy.
They're not. I can tell you right now, James, they're not trading back. They're just not. They're not going to do that.
Didn't they trade up for Julio?
Yes. Oh, God.
So they're more of the camp of we're just going to go up and get our guy. Yep. I get it if you're going up to get a quarterback, but other than that, I'm not trading all these assets for a receiver.
Who? Jaden
Daniels? Falcons this year. Oh no, I'm not trading up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's just saying in general.
In general,
okay.
If you have a quarterback need, I get trading up. But other than that, I'm not trading up 10 picks to get a receiver.
What if Jaden Daniels is there at 8? Do the Falcons take him there?
Yes.
Yes, you do that.
Yes, 100%.
You have to.
I'm high on. I think Jaden Daniels might be the best quarterback in this draft.
I agree, but wow, yeah, that's going to be really interesting. I don't think he's there. I think it's a moot point, but
yeah, he's not going to be there.
He's going to Washington.
Yeah,
if I see JJ McCarthy go top 3 or top 4, whoever that franchise is, you're toast for 3 years.
They have JJ McCarthy.
What have they been watching, man? I mean, I don't understand this love on JJ McCarthy all of a sudden. I don't get it.
They have him going 4th to the Minnesota Vikings. That's where they.
What? Why? Based on what?
I don't know. He won the national championship, and they got like he's.
Oh, okay. He won the national championship. Oh, okay. By handing the ball off like Buck Bellew. Sorry, Buck. I'm not knocking you, but that's the way it is.
So,
my brother's a Michigan fan, and even he said he's like, I don't know about him top 5. He used to be even bigger fan, and then I think the Penn State and Maryland game, he was terrible against them. He's like, I don't know how you pick. I don't know how you pick him in the top 10.
I never said he's a national champion.
There you go. Because the national championship game, I don't think he did much against Washington.
He did.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
What did he do versus Washington?
He's joking. Yeah, he's just. Yeah, I think Garrett's joking.
Garrett's screwing around.
Yeah. Well, guys, we got a few minutes left, and Ben is wearing an excellent Atlanta Hawks jersey. So,
yeah,
Eddie, I know it's just eating you alive. They played and they got killed. They lost 131 to 116 to the Bulls to end the season. What's wrong? They get new players, they get new coaches. It never gets better. What's the problem? So,
Tony Wrestler. He is the problem. The owner.
What do you mean? What is he doing that is
he fired Schlenk. I'm getting in the weeds here. I know everybody's probably logging off, but Schlenk was our GM. He made some great moves, and he fired him to allow his son to come in as GM and the salary cap too. That's 100% right. Wrestler does not want to I think Bill Shanks read all of the teams that are in the playoffs today that are above the salary cap, and it was like 16 of them. Okay. That's where you got to be. And the Hawks have said, Tony Wrestler said, we're not going there. We're not going to spend the money. Okay. Well, guess where you're going to be? You're going to be 15th from now on. You're a mediocre franchise from now on. Okay. But I will say this. I think Trae Young last night played his last game as an Atlanta Hawk. I think he's gone. If they're smart, I think he's gone. DeJounte Murray can be that guy. He proved it when Trae was out. He plays defense. He plays offense. He's a leader. And unfortunately, now it was a mistake to trade Trae Young for the Luka Doncic pick. We screwed it up. It was a mistake. So you got to blow this thing up and unfortunately start over, because if you don't do that, we're going to be mid-range, which is right here in the middle. And that's the worst place you can be in the NBA. Worst place ever.
Yeah.
It is. You have to fully I know people hate using the word
you have to do that.
You have to do it, because I look at the NBA and I go, honestly, it's kind of a crap league. That's why I'm not really like a fan of a team. That's why the NBA people are fans of players more so than like cities for whatever reason.
Right.
The other sports, they're fans of the city, the team, whatnot. But in the NBA, they're fans of LeBron. They're fans of Steph Curry.
They follow LeBron no matter what team he goes to. That's
exactly. Like, I have friends who are like that. But I do know with the Hawks, because I have a lot of people who are Wizards fans. I cannot stand that organization. That's why at a young age I go, I'm just not a fan of an NBA team. They're in that purgatory of they're going to be picking between like 12 and 8. That's the worst place to be.
Purgatory.
You have to tank. You look, Giannis, I look at the Bucks. Like, they have Giannis, won a championship, superstar.
Yeah.
Trae Young, very good player. Could be a number 2 or number 3 on a team that wins a championship. Can't be the number 1 on a team that wins a championship. You can't. You have to. I think Cooper Flagg is the superstar in next year's draft. The Hawks should get as many resources and picks and whatnot they can get for Trae Young. Tank next year, get Cooper Flagg, get all these young players around a superstar young player, have all this cap space, and build that way. You can't just say, oh, we want to be a respectable team that, is like 5 games under 500. You can't be that. That's the worst place to be. I told my friends, John Wall, because they were Wizards fans, they go, John Wall and Bradley Beal, they're fun to watch. They're 7 seed. I go, you're a 7 seed that knows you're going to get bounced in the first round every year. Who cares? I go, you got to fully tank, get superstars that can win. That's what the Hawks have to do. The Hawks are the same team. The Pistons were the same team, but Pistons are the one team that seems like they don't know they don't know who to pick. They don't know what they're doing. They lose they only win like 5 games and they get the number 1 pick. I don't know what's up with them. But the Hawks, they don't tank properly like the Falcons. They just don't tank right. No, they need to figure it out.
So have you ever heard of Kobe White? Have you heard of Kobe White?
No.
Your answer says it all. I mean, your expressions. He is with the Chicago Bulls, and he had 42 points last night against the Hawks. Kobe White. There you go.
No,
where's our Kobe White? That's my point, right? He balled out against the Hawks last night. Exactly. Nobody knows who he is. He had 42 points last night, and he kicked our ass. And we're sitting at home, and the Bulls get to move on. So make the right moves. Tony Wrestler's a problem. He doesn't want to spend the money. And until he sells the team, I think we're going to be in purgatory. I hate to say it.
Well, I guess that sucks being a Hawks fan. I'm glad I don't follow.
And also, Alex Page, no, I would not do that.
Okay, yes.
No,
that's too early. That's too. Take Penix in the second round. I love the guy.
Football has Penix going. They have him going with the 13th pick to the Raiders, right behind, and they have Bo Nix going.
Eight's a reach. Eight's a reach.
I've seen some people pick him to the Dolphins. I'm like, the Dolphins confuse me with Tua. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I've seen Penix mocked there, but I don't know if the Dolphins are going to take a quarterback.
I love Penix. I'm a Penix guy, but he's not the pick at 8.
I'll take him in the second.
I could take him in the second pick. Absolutely.
Andy, you know who I prefer over Michael Penix? You know, it's got to be
Bo Nix.
Yeah, it's got to be Bo Nix.
They have him going right.
You could get Bo in the third round, couldn't you?
No, they have Bo Nix going in the first round with the 12th overall.
Oh, come on.
To the Denver Broncos.
If he's mocked in the first round, it's the Broncos.
It's the Broncos. 12th overall.
They think Sean Payton loves
Bo Nix in the first round.
Who would have thought it? When Georgia Bulldogs
Sean
beat
Payton's
that guy
a fan of
to death.
If you would have told me after his first year,
he might be okay there because he's not playing the Georgia Bulldogs, so he might win, right?
Against Georgia, he was horrific.
We opened up against Oregon, and it was, we were coming off the national championship, and I was watching it with my friend that's a Gator fan, and I was like, is there any reason I should be nervous? Kevin said, Bo Nix is playing the Georgia Bulldogs. It's over. He was like, do not worry about it. And Georgia just beat them to death. All right, guys, before we get out of here, I got one question for you, more so for Ben, because we know what Eddie's favorite meal is. Or Ben, did you see what Eddie's favorite meal is?
Well, you know what one of them is.
Red beans and rice that takes 3.5 hours to cook.
3.5 hours.
Does he know what it is? Does he know what it is?
Oh, I do know what that is, but 3.5 hours to cook.
Yeah.
Well, you enjoyed it. It's like AJ. You guys know AJ Burnett, the pitcher.
Yes, the pitcher.
Yeah.
I know him. I know him and his sons really well, so I'm close to them. He's always grilling like 2 hours a day. So
get him on the podcast. What's wrong with you? Get him on the podcast. Let's do this. So.
Oh, I could try to.
Let's do it.
So my favorite. You're asking what my favorite dish is?
Favorite dish.
Oh, if I'm down south, probably gumbo. Up here, I love. Whenever I eat with my family, I love steak and baked potato. It's always a tradition. I love a nice steak, and I
ribeye steak. That's me. A ribeye steak and French fries. I'm not a baked potato guy. I love French fries, but yes, ribeye steak and French fries.
I like French fries, but it's just a family tradition. We always eat baked potatoes.
Yeah.
And then all the other vegetables and everything else.
I don't eat vegetables. Screw up.
Isolated food though is bacon. Easy money.
I love bacon. God, it's good. I love bacon.
Easy. My
favorite
food is bacon. If I wake up and I have bacon, it's the best day every day. Like I've never had a bad day when I eat bacon.
Everything is better with bacon. I love cheeseburgers. Put bacon on it, it's better. I mean,
that's true.
A ribeye steak.
You're gonna feel like crap afterwards, but
it's fine. It's fine.
You're happier.
Yeah.
So let's see. We got one more question before we get out of here. Alex Bay says, how much of a mistake was it to make that trade? Has Dallas made it farther in the playoffs? See, that's a good question. I think that's the big debate on that. So I think
it's a mixed thing. So whatever. I mean, we could debate this forever. I mean, but you know what? I'll put it this way: Luka's going to be with Dallas next year. Trey ain't going to be with the Hawks next year. So there you go.
I don't know if the Mavs are ever going to win a championship. I don't know.
And they may not.
And Kyrie, I don't trust him just in general. Just don't trust him.
They have one more than the Hawks do, though.
That is true.
I know it was with Nowitzki, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm about to say they had a loaded team back then.
Yeah, but they have one. We don't.
I loved watching the Hawks when they had Al Horford. That was one of my favorite players. Watching him and Joe Johnson, those two together.
And he was a Gator. Sucked he was a Gator, but I love.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting about that? I met Al Horford at a fundraiser one time, and I said, "I'm shaking your hand, Al, but I hate the Florida Gators." And he said, "I don't care about that. I'm an Atlanta Hawk now. All that stuff's in the past." So I really appreciate that about him, because I told him where my allegiances lie. But I just thought that was cool of him to say that.
Yeah, he knows Florida sucks too. So. Well, guys,
with 2 championships back to back.
Hey, that's that Billy Donovan era. That was some good.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been a huge basketball fan. I did like watching those teams, even though I hate the Gators. They were good. God, they were so good.
I saw them in person. I went to see them at the Georgia Dome.
Really?
I saw that in person. Yeah, they were
really
incredible.
So, guys. This was fun. We want to thank everyone that's been here tonight and that's been in the chat and we'll watch later. We appreciate you guys. Like I said, if you haven't.
Before you get out, tell Ben how everybody can follow him and read him and keep
follow Ben on Twitter. How about that, Ben? Start one tonight. Start your Twitter tonight, dude.
Yeah, I'll probably start my Twitter tonight. Some of the
stuff. No, but how can people follow you and read you and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I'm on UGASports. Actually, there might be some commitment posts that are coming out soon that I already have in the woodwork. So you guys might want to stay tuned for that. I'm on Kudzu Hill on there for the baseball forum. I'm on the Hoops forum, Dog Vent, Vault. I'm on the YouTube, so just check me out there. And if you ever see me, just give me a holler.
Sounds good. Well, Ben, we appreciate you coming on with us.
Thank you, man.
Mm-hmm.
For Eddie, for Mr. Ben Choppy Bachmann, we appreciate it. I'm Andy Stu. We'll see you guys next time. See ya.